Good morning, Top Fan Rivalry followers. Episode 4, Friday morning. We're ready to go. Let's talk unraveling the Red Sox. That's right. Mike, how you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing good. Staying dry out here, unlike out on the West Coast.
Did we the last week we've needed Noah to give us directions in his arc. I mean, there was and can I just tell you, Mike, on the West Coast, see, on the East Coast is a little different. You guys hold on to the weather. On the West Coast out here, it's not too hard to look out and go, yeah, it's gonna be sunny. Um, And when they are wrong 97% of the time, and they still get paid pretty good and get raises and promotions. Yesterday, they told us, quote, it might not rain today, and we shouldn't have any rain or any clouds until next Sunday. It downpoured last night. Downpoured. Like completely downpoured. I thought, all right, well, I should be a weatherman. That's what I should do. I'll be wrong all the
Only are the only people that get paid to be wrong more than baseball players.
time. Or more than the sports writers that vote for the Hall of Fame.
Oh yes. Well, they did all right this year.
Did you know that there were three dudes that turned in their ballots that only had A-Rod and Manny on them?
Yeah. I mean,
Those guys should
they
have
don't
their
really
votes
do a
taken
very
away.
good job of governing the voting process, which I think is a problem. But I think that's a topic for another day for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely do that. So today is the last Friday without baseball. You have spring training starting, pitchers and catchers reporting. Do me a favor, give me a spring training update or outlook the way that you see it coming in as a Red Sox fan this season.
Well, it's gonna be an interesting uh spring training. There's a couple things that we're going to be looking for. We want to see how our everyday players from last year come in. Are they ready to go? We've seen her, uh, and so hopefully that doesn't happen this year. We have Trevor Story coming back, hopefully 100% from injury. We got a glimpse of him at the end of last season. We have a ton of young potential on this team. Some guys ready to take the next step, or hopefully take the next step. Some guys coming in, that we'll be keeping an eye on, that'll still be in the minor leagues and ready to uh, maybe progress through the system. And maybe we see them at the end of the year, depending on whether they am not banking on, or they come up to see what their talent is going to be. But I'm talking specifically about the progression of Duran, of Casas, of Bayo, and then super young prospects like Rafaela, Willier Abreu. See how he can make the transition to being on the big league team for a full season. He was a bright spot last year coming up and coming into the team. We still have Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, our new draft pick from this past season, Zanatello. We'll see what he looks like. So there's a lot of different things to keep an eye on with the team. But you'll notice that I didn't, besides Bayo, touch almost at all on the rotation, because who knows? Who knows with the pitching? It's like the black hole of the Red Sox. Giolito, who knows? Uh, besides Bayo and Giolito, it's going to be a whole, hey, can this guy go? Can this guy go? Fit them together, puzzle piece them in. I still think that they should go try and get either Montgomery or Snell. Believe they're both still out there waiting. I've said that for a couple weeks now, and I know we just talked about this in the off-air show, but I love what Trevor Bauer had to say, and I know that Boston probably isn't the best market for him to position himself, but I'd love to get a picture of the caliber of Trevor Bauer on this team also. especially since he's fully incentive laden
Yeah.
contract. So
Yeah, that's going to be your key. And it's funny if I'm a manager, and I guess I'm old school, but if I'm a manager of an MLB team and I'm talking to the pitching staff, I'm looking at them and saying, boys, epic fail. Epic fail if you can't get 18 outs. I expect you as a starter to get me 18 outs.
and
And
that's not asking almost anything.
no, exactly. But in today's game, we like
Yep.
applaud,
Right.
hey, you went 5 innings. Like,
Yeah.
uh, you know what I mean? I'd be
Yep.
saying, boys, give me 18 outs at a bare minimum. Otherwise, it's an epic fail. Okay. I'm looking for 21 outs from you as a starter and your pitch count
Right.
to stay down, but I'll take 18. Right.
Yep.
And so, I mean, because again, in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 80s, if you didn't finish your game that you started, something was wrong. I mean, how many times did Nolan Ryan pitch into extra innings, pitch 10 innings, 11 innings? I mean, and I want to meet that
Yeah.
pitching coach that's going to walk out
Yep.
there and go, hey, you're done. Because Nolan was going to
Yeah.
look at him and go, go back to the
Well,
dugout.
yeah. Right.
Thanks
I
for
mean, it
coming
was
out.
that was the expectation. We've kind of talked in the past couple of weeks too about the difference in play and the expectations of players these days versus the lunch pail days. And it's totally different. But
Yeah, it's absolutely different. It's
more times than not,
mhm.
jeez, like what are we doing? Unless it's
it's
designed that way. But you know what? I don't like the way that that's designed. I'll tell you that Kevin Cash in his 1 inning opener was like the downfall of like accountability for pitchers.
very true. Very true. Um, so let me ask you this. I give you the keys to the kingdom. You are now the owner of, I don't care, the Royals,
Sure.
right? And I'm the owner of the Nationals. Okay. We're at our ownership meeting and I propose that we take a vote. Okay. What do you think of this idea? I propose that all free agents, not trades, all free agents must sign by January 15th. If they do not sign by January 15th, they are locked out of communications with any team until April 30th, and then they must sign by May 15th. Otherwise, they forfeit the season. What do you think?
Wow.
Would you vote for it?
You're really put you're really putting the screws to the players.
Well, it's not so much the screws to the players. Okay, so
To the
let me ask
agents,
you
I
this.
guess.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned Blake Snell. We'll use Blake Snell for example. Okay. Blake Snell's negotiating. Let's say he's negotiating with you guys right now. Let's say he's negotiating with the Red Sox right now. We don't know. But he's negotiating with the Red Sox. And all of a sudden, um, you know, contracts are worked out and everything like that. And he reports to spring training on March 10th. So 1 month from tomorrow. Okay. Then he opens the season 1-5 with an ERA of over 5. As a fan, you're gonna sit there and think, why didn't he get his contract earlier? And why wasn't he at a full spring training? Maybe he wasn't ready for it yet. You see where I'm going with that? Like, get your guys in and get them going early. Otherwise, don't play.
Yeah, no, I mean I like the idea theoretically, like like the sooner that you can get guys contracts going and stuff like that, uh the obviously the better, the quicker you can get them into the organization, get them assimilated to the expectations and the routines and the training programs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Uh I mean, they obviously the players are going to fight for their ability to you know have the freedom to negotiate the way that and it, to the degree that they want to, but I don't know all the legalese around it.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of like making things happen a lot quicker. And obviously, anytime that you can put some sort of constraint on, timetables and stuff like that, it makes things happen. Just it's like S or get off the pot, like
Yeah, ex exactly. Well, I mean, from the last out of the World Series, once the celebration's over, the lights go out. The next morning, you've crowned a World Series champion. You can start negotiating. People are free agents. You can start negotiating. Teams that players that play for teams like the Angels that don't like October, apparently, they start negotiating in August because they're going to be on the golf course in October, trying to figure out where they're going to be.
yeah,
They got plenty of time. The problem is guys like Blake Snell, and he's repped by the same person that
Boris.
that Cody Bellinger's repped, that Matt Chapman's repped
Sure.
by. So, I mean, a guy like Blake Snell wants 300 million over 9 years. Again, I look at him and go, okay, Blake, for every time you don't go into the sixth, for every time you don't give me 18 outs, we don't pay you. I mean, that would change the ball game completely. He's 31 years old. I'm just tired of all these very, very good, like these superstar athletes are holding it back for other athletes. Austin Meadows is out there. There's a number of Joey Votto still has
Right.
gas in the tank,
Yeah.
but nobody's
Big
talking about him.
the big domino a lot of the smaller dominoes end up not falling until the big dominoes,
Correct. Yeah. I just that's a
to
sidebar.
set the market. They got to set the market, they're ready to go.
Exactly. That was a sidebar. I know we're just talking about spring training, but you had mentioned these signings, and it just drives me batty that we're now February 9th. Pitchers and catchers report next week, and guys like Blake Snell and Liam
Yeah.
Hendricks don't have teams to play for.
Right.
And so, and with Liam, I don't know why the White Sox haven't offered him a deal. I mean, everybody loves him on the south side of Chicago, right?
All right.
Cancer survivor, everything like that. But
The awesome Aussie.
yeah, but I mean, yeah. Anyway, I digress, but it's frustrating. I mean,
It's strange because again, we talked too, about the difference, in the I don't think like back in the 80s or even in the 90s, like, you had these like long-term holdouts for negotiations, and it's probably not players. We talked about, Boris, like maybe that's like a huge thing because there's such a majority of players that is his staff and his team like overloaded with the amount of contracts and players that they have to represent
yeah,
and
that's a
get
good
like
question.
the ability to actually make it happen.
That's a good question because I mean, I like how and I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here, but I liked how Justin Turner and Max Muncy negotiated their contracts with the Dodgers. Justin Turner's last, and I know he's no longer a Red Sox, and he's actually playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers North right now because
Yes, yeah,
it seems like Toronto takes every one of the Dodgers. But um, Justin, just walked into the front office in August before his last contract, before he moved on, and said, "This is what I want, guys. Forget my
right.
agent." And they said, "Well, this is what we're going to give you." And he's like,
That's the thing,
"Okay,
it's like, do you want to play or do you not want to play? Yeah, you want to make the most amount of money, but like, do you not want to? Would you rather not play?
yeah, exactly." And people don't get that. They don't understand that, hey, this is where you're at. Like either you play or you don't play. And if you're not going to play, then
Right.
that's fine, right? I mean, just don't make it hard because here's the thing, right? You may be a Blake Snell where you're trying to get 300 million, right? And you may end up with 240 over 7 years, which is roughly the same. Now,
Yeah.
your family's taken care of, but let's talk about the father, the single dad that wants to take his three kids to a game and now is going to spend 150 bucks because everything is so expensive. And he's thinking, "Oh man, Blake Snell, he won
Right.
the Cy Young last year, man, he's lights out." And he goes over to Fenway to watch a game and he pays his 150 bucks to get him and his three kids in. and then he, buys a couple souvenirs, drinks, popcorn, whatever. He's out $350. And Blake Snell doesn't make it out of the second inning and gives up 6 runs,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt Blake any, right?
Nope.
That
Yeah.
$300 is what Blake spends in an afternoon just walking around, and it doesn't even bother him. But that's a big deal to that single dad. So remember who's paying the paychecks is my
Yep.
argument. But again, I digress. I'm thinking like an owner and not like a fan. Um, what are your thoughts of the 2024 season? You mentioned some of the highlights, but what are your thoughts? Are the Red Sox, and again, this is that we're going to laugh about this at the end of the season because we're going to come back and listen to this, but are the Red Sox competitive this season? Or are the Red Sox ultimately the spoilers of the American League East?
I think that they have, a lot of potential and a lot of ability on the team. It's just as they all got to come together, and I mean that's the beautiful thing about the game. It's that there's always next year mentality. It's the every season is a clean slate and a fresh start. Uh, so if I'm looking at the roster, do I think that there's a chance that they could finish third in the East and maybe fight for a wild card spot, a play-in spot? Yeah, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Do I think that they're going to be better than a majority of the teams in the Central and the West? Yes. Do I think they're going to be better than the Yankees and the Orioles? No. They fall somewhere in that they've probably fall somewhere in the 8 to 18 position.
Okay. Okay.
18. There's not 18 teams, is there?
Yeah. Well, no, there's 15.
15.
Yeah, there's 15.
8 to 12. We'll say 8 to 12.
8 to 12.
Jeez, I sound so smart.
So and let me tell you the percentage on that. Okay, so let me
Right?
ask a follow-up question then, because I love your analysis. Um, True or false? The Yankees are one injury away from having a really bad season.
False. Well, I guess it depends on if it's in the lineup or the rotation. One injury in the rotation, yes. One injury in the lineup, no.
Okay, so let's move Arson Judge out of the lineup onto the IL. And Juan Soto does what Juan Soto does, which is start very, very slow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the Yankees at the All-Star break maybe are 40 and 47, right? Is that conceivable?
In baseball, Bill, anything is possible.
That's
Is it conceivable? Sure.
shoot. I forgot who I'm talking
Is it
to.
honestly, is it conceivable? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It
so let
could
me let me
happen.
let me
Because I
try
mean,
this again.
they have a whole bunch of question marks in their rotation too after Cole.
Yeah. My argument is that the Yankees might be one injury away from having a at best an average season, and the Orioles still have to prove it. They're young. They have to. It's been a while since the Orioles have been in first place, coming in as the division winners, and having that stigma around like, hey, we still need to beat these guys. But the Orioles aren't the Red Sox. They're not the Yankees. Do you know what I think your biggest wild card is? I think you have two biggest wild cards, and why I think your season could be successful. Number one, you play all 29 other teams, right? That's going to help you in the long run. You're going to be playing the Washington Nationals. You're going to be playing the Colorado Rockies. You're going to be playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. You're going to be playing the teams that are rebuilding. As
all
is,
teams that the Red Sox lost to last year. By the way,
well, it's a new year, right? Remember what Timothy Looper said. And another thing, just wait till next year, right? So I think that's your one of your biggest
That's
advantages.
right.
You know what your biggest advantage though, I think is where you play. You guys have a stigma of um, the history of it, and people are nervous to come
Yeah.
into Fenway, and that's
Yeah. And
that's
I
your
also
wild.
think that they build a team around playing in that park, but I think that a lot of teams with that understand the field that they play on and that they play in also build their teams, for their home games.
Mhm.
Uh the Red Sox again didn't have a great home record last year. So, but
Yeah,
that there were
but
a lot of I think there were other things that went into that too on the field that they wanted to for most
yeah,
of the season. So,
yeah.
but
So here's a thought. Okay, Joe Torre wrote a book called The Yankee Years years ago, and it was actually a really good book. I read it. It was actually I read it more for the Joe Torre aspect of it and not the Yankees aspect, right?
sure.
But Joe Torre wrote a really good book. And one of the things that he said was the reason why we win so many games on the road is because people are afraid of our history and the name on the front of our jersey. Now, Boston doesn't have that same history that the Yankees do of winning a ton of World Series and just being the evil empire thing. But I'm telling you, the first time I went to Fenway last season, when I walked through the concourse and saw that field, I was blown away. I mean, I'm at
Oh
a
yeah.
game here. Think about who's played here, right?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
gotta assume that players feel that way,
I
right?
agree, especially younger players. But we mentioned the Orioles, and I just think that no they're this season than the Orioles. I think that they are going to play with something to prove. They are a storied organization. They do play in the East. They do play against these two superpowers in the Red Sox and the Yankees every year. And I think that they know that they're good now.
Yep.
So I think that like I think they know that they're good. For years and years, we heard here on our awesome, sports radio in the Boston market. Great, the Blue Jays were going to be great this year. Watch out for the Blue Jays, and it never happens.
Right.
I don't think the Blue Jays were ever convinced that they were as good as they were on paper. Like
Agreed.
I just don't think that that was ever the case. I do think that the Orioles think that they're as good as they are. So, I'm cautiously, as a Red Sox fan, cautiously excited for the Orioles this season.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic and excited. And yeah,
I want to see
Mike,
them play. I want to see them play well, just not against the Red Sox.
yeah, yeah. Well, listen, that's kind of the way I felt about Dustin Pedroia. I loved Dustin Pedroia because I felt like he played the game right. I
Yeah,
hated him when he played against the Dodgers because he would level up against them. But that was only 3 games or 6 games a season. It didn't
right.
matter. I could hate him for 6 games, but then love him for 156 games. Right. And so, I get it. I understand. It's yeah. I admire anybody that's fans in the American League East because right now, technically, on paper, all 5 teams could be playoff contenders.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
so you don't it's not like you're in the Central right now, and no disrespect to either one, the National League or the American League Centrals, but both divisions could probably be won by 87 games. No disrespect to anybody in those divisions. It's just okay.
Yeah.
You're the American League East, though. You don't have room to make mistakes. You
Right.
can't go on a 6 game losing streak because that could end your season even in April because there's so many good teams. So, anyways,
Yeah. It's going to be an exciting division, and it's The
So
Yankees, the Yankees are proven all are a bunch of proven players. The
mhm,
Orioles are a bunch of really good young players, and the Red Sox are a bunch of young players that have a lot of potential to be really good.
see, and the Orioles to me are doing what the Yankees did in the late '90s, early 2000s, where they
Sure,
brought up a
a
group
lot
of
of
people
homegrown.
together through the
Yeah,
system,
yep,
which you saw how well that worked out for the Yankees. It's
yeah. You have to
so if the
have that system. The Orioles do have that system right now. You know, they
yeah
still have young talent on on the rise coming through. Colton Cowser and Jackson Holiday. Like we don't even think like they have Gunner and Adley up right now, and they still have Jackson Holiday like coming. And he's
yeah
like he's widely considered the number one prospect in baseball right now. And we'll
well
probably
and
see him this year. And that is gonna
exactly
be make
well I honestly Mike I I don't know how to admit this. I actually have a Red Sox jersey that I bought in 1988 when the Red Sox were playing the A's in the playoffs because for some reason I became a closet Red Sox fan. Now, in the 90s, when the Yankees were doing so much good, and I became a fan of Derek Jeter, I actually have a Yankees jersey in my closet too. It's actually funny. Um, there's one of my good friends is a huge Red Sox fan. She grew up here in Southern California, but huge Red Sox fan. And my wife and I know her and her husband really well. And so one day I had to see her and she had her badge on at her work and she has a Red Sox, thing on it to hold her badge. And so I wore my Yankees jersey and I walked up to her and she knew I was behind her, but I started rubbing my arm on her arm. And then she looked, she goes, I gotta wash. I'm gonna get a rash. It was best thing ever. But
it was good.
that
It was good times when the Redskins, but
yeah. I was actually showing my wife last night the video of the MLB, how they do the MLB baseball seasons, on the MLB
yep,
network. Well, it was
yep,
2004. And so they showed Derek Jeter jumping into the stands and on July 1st, right? And how uh, Terry Francona's like, man, I hated that guy. He was so good. I hated him.
yeah,
and
yeah,
and then a couple weeks later, A-Rod gets drilled, right? And then A-Rod and Veritek go WWE on everybody. And it was uh it was fun to watch. I mean, but I kind of
yeah.
miss those days
What a game
because
that was.
there's not somebody on the Red Sox that's so stand out like Veritek was or like Schilling was, where they're gonna
Sure.
say to the
Yep.
Yankees to Judge or to Stanton, here I'm standing up.
Who
I'm
is
waiting for that
Kareem
guy to come
Garcia?
out. When Pedro drilled Gary Sheffield, and Gary Sheffield
Oh
was what
yeah.
Pedro just stone cold looked at him, and
Yeah.
Sheffield, it's like, not me. You don't want me.
No, yeah.
I don't know, man. I think Sheffield could have body slammed him, but Pedro probably could have, gotten out of it. I don't know.
Buck 15 soaking wet.
Yeah, man, but and that wasn't even an accident, too. You look at that pitch, he hit him on the elbow, on the inside of the elbow. It wasn't even an accident. He knew what he was doing. Okay, good.
Oh, not a guy that has control like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Mike. So next week, let's go through who reported any injury updates, what the lineup could look like in spring training when you're starting some of the younger kids, and maybe we should highlight a few of the younger players too that may or may
Sure.
not be household names, but will eventually be household names.
Great. Yeah. That's coming up and playing. And I'm excited to see them play in Worcester before they come up to Boston. So
Yeah,
I'll have the advanced scouting report.
there you go. There you go. I love it. I love it. Go live. Let's go live, right?
That's right.
So, all right, top fan rivalry followers, Mike, heads up sports cards. Um, Me, Top Fan Rivalry, we're just talking Red Sox, and we love doing it every Friday. Next week
That's
we'll
right.
we'll give you, it's going to get exciting during the season because you're going to get a chance to get Mike's emotions out. Like there will be weeks where they'll go 6-0, and there will be weeks where they might go 2-4, and they should have been 6-0, and we'll get Mike's emotions out. Trust me, he may be even killed now, but when the Red Sox go 2-4 and they just lost 4 games in a row to like somebody like Colorado, you're going to hear about it. It's going to be awesome. And all I'm going to do is sit there and laugh and go, I know your
Yeah,
pain. Um, but
Rangers will have also just lost 4 in a row to the Rockies.
there you go. All right, my good friend. Well, let's do this again next week. Yeah.
Sounds great, Bill. I appreciate it. Having a great time doing this. Like Bill said, check me out at Heads Up Sports Cards on Instagram.
Yes.
And we will see everybody next week.
Sounds good.